Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is CJ Abernathey, and today, excuse me, hopefully it's not like that the whole time. Aubrey, shh, jeez Louise. So, again, my name is CJ Abernathey, and today I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Mr. Jeremy R Deeter of Ohio. And we're going to be discussing something called the PATRIOT CONCORDS, and it's a new concept, new idea, at least to me. And I'm going to be taking the opportunity today to be discussing that with Mr. Deeter and using this as an opportunity to get these questions out, because a lot of the time you hear that we all talk about the problems this country has, but nobody really has a solution. Everybody thinks it's going to be this easy thing to get our country to a constitutional standpoint where, again, our Constitution is put front and center, our rights are not deprived of us, and from what I've been able to gather, Mr. Deeter here has an incredible idea, and again, these all start with ideas, concepts. These start with people that care about their communities, down to the local level, all the way up to the federal level. We all have our concerns, our questions, our comments, and our complaints about the government for which we are all living under here in the United States. And I most certainly have my questions. But it's an honor and a privilege today to get to bring on Mr. Deeter, and I hope I'm saying that right. And just so you guys know, a concord is essentially an agreement, a harmony between people. And again, it's nothing that we have to force down anybody's throat. It's nothing that we have to say this is the way it's going to be or else. Everything that I've looked into, and this seems to be that it is voluntary, and only if you yourself feel like you want to participate and to what level you want to participate in. And so, again, it doesn't seem to have a giant national figurehead, just common like-minded people that are willing to take the same fundamental principles and use those to try to solve the problems that we're seeing in our country today. So when Jeremy does come on here, if you could just push that button, sir, and I will bring you on. All right, real quick, I do want to read this before I get you on here. The PATRIOT CONCORDS. These concords are intended only as an accord between the signer and their homeland, these United States of America. In no event are they to be considered or attributed as an implement of coercion or skulduggery. And so I'm going to let him go through and take the floor and explain it to people that might not have heard it before. And then I do have some questions that there was some concerns in a group that I have last night, and we'll allow Jeremy to answer those questions. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Jeremy R Deeter. Good morning,
hello,
sir. Or good afternoon.
How are you?
Sir. Can you hear me?
Oh man, am I lagging out?
No, I hear you now.
Okay.
So, Jeremy, welcome. I want to thank you for coming on here and discussing this idea. The way you framed this is that it's in a way that I haven't seen personally in my lifetime. It's something that I believe I said it in my original video where I was reaching out to you, that the last time something like this was done was 1776. So that's kind of a huge idea, and the way that you framed it, and at least in the verbiage here, I believe that is how our Declaration of Independence was formed, was with a list of grievances, and that's where you've started on this. So for those that don't know Jeremy and what he's about here, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell us what brought you to the PATRIOT CONCORDS idea to begin with.
Well, yeah, thank you, man. And first of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the platform. Thank you for the honest engagement, because you speak well. You have a really good articulation. When I was listening to you on the video here before, I was thinking, damn, that guy should be the spokesperson for the Concords.
No,
I really appreciate the way that you break stuff down. You're very honest about it. You keep a good, clear head, clear focus, very level-headed. I appreciate all of that. And I appreciate the honest critique as well. You know, and for me, in 2008, I decided to give up all my rights to privacy and start speaking on the internet about just how I saw the world. And that got me involved in, I felt like I was watching the world go around and I was seeing all these things, but nobody was saying anything about it. And I was like, all right, I'll say something then since no one else will. And didn't think that anybody would care. I really honestly didn't think that anyone was going to care one way or another about my opinion, my thoughts. So it was kind of freeing. It made it really easy to just tell what I thought was the truth. And it ended up that it was people were receptive to it. And so then that led me into going to events at the State House. And then that led into organizing events. And then we started an organization called Unite Ohio. And I was the spokesperson for that. And we helped, you know, veterans families and homeless people. And there was an elderly woman who was a retired state highway patrol, which nobody knew at the time, that was told by her apartment complex here in Ohio that she wasn't allowed to fly her American flag. So, and she lives in Whitehall, Ohio, which consistently has the most crime out of any city in Ohio, beating out, you know, per capita, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati. And they have a lot of MS-13, stuff like that. So we got an armed militia. We got two of them, and we marched them down the street with their guns, pistols and rifles, and marched them down the middle of the street to her apartment and sat a 24-hour guard at her flag and told her corporate office, yes, she can fly that flag, and we dare you to touch it. And they sent their lawyers on the weekend, probably paid a lot of money for those high-priced lawyers just to come down and tell us that she's allowed to fly her flag. So since then, she was sent to Washington, D.C. in front of the Armed Services House Committee, in front of, it was 3 different major committees, and she's the first person in 25 years to get the Armed Services House Committee to actually stand and applaud what she said. And the secretaries were amazed. Everybody was amazed because they've never seen any of those people applaud anything ever. And it was so that they could pass a law to make it legal to fly the American flag. And she said, in America, I can't believe we have to pass a law to fly our own flag. And that was what they applauded.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things that led me to your videos was obviously mutual friends sharing your conversations and your videos. And I've probably been aware about your videos, I don't know, maybe say about a good month now or so. I've been able to tune in live when I can, watch a replay here or there. And one of the things that really sparked me into paying attention to your videos was what is happening in Ohio with your gun laws. And the reason why you guys had your rally on the 23rd. And you know, if you don't mind, Jeremy, just discussing in brief detail what the Ohio government is trying to do in your state.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do that. And I was leading up to that. All of this activism, you're fine. All of this activism and everything has placed me speaking at different events and getting really involved politically here in Ohio. And there was a group, there's a group called Ohioans for Concealed Carry that has some really astute people there that were paying close attention to House Bill 228 that was approved last December 27th. And there was a provision that was entered into the bill in between the House and the Senate vote, and the Senate wasn't aware of it, and they approved it, and the provision was they said it was a mistake, and the provision's in the wrong place. And because it was in the prohibited section, what it actually did, instead of enhancing our gun rights in Ohio, was it almost completely dissolved the Second Amendment here. Any gun, any firearm that's over 26 inches from the barrel tip to the butt of the gun is going to be made illegal. So that's if your shotgun is, if your rifle is, and most of them are. And it also makes illegal scopes, grips, barrels, and trigger modifications for the majority of pistols. This creates a strange...
I'm looking at the bill right now, and it looks like it is a lot of language. And any problem when you have a gun legislation that, first and foremost, there's something in here that is going to be depriving and infringing upon your rights, I guarantee you. Within, again, I'm looking at the original text. It goes all the way down to 35 pages on your bill here. And again, I do believe that that the word shall not be infringed. I see words such as you need permits, you need license, you need this. So Ohio seems to be a long way away from shall not be infringed.
Straight up. Yeah. We have, until House Bill 228, Ohio was pretty well known as a gun-friendly state. You know, we have open carry, we have concealed carry. You know, you can carry a gun here. Ohioans don't care, and our laws have been like that since forever. And we have this pass, and we started to make the announcements to the nation that on March 27th, that's the 90th day after the bill is passed, because in Ohio we have a 90-day provision until the law goes into effect. Because of that, March 28th will be the very first day that if you possess those firearms, you will be a 4th-degree felon.
Now, what's really shocking about this is that the amount of sponsors and co-sponsors on this bill is pretty overwhelming. It looks like the majority of your state legislature supports this legislation.
Well, you know, we can say that that was an honest mistake. All right, let's just take them at their word that it was an honest mistake, that the provision was put in the wrong place, that it was worded correctly, but it was put in the wrong place by mistake. This was an omnibus bill, and for people that don't know what that means, that's fine. It means that this is a bill that was created by the lawmakers, and voters had nothing to do with it. It's 100% controlled and created by lawmakers. It's their inception. It's what they believe is good for you, what you need, and you've had no say. There's no say, there's no vote, there's no discussion, there's no debate, there's no nothing. It's an omnibus bill. And it was in lame duck session when nobody was there. And so, like, this was a lot of proof when they say that the lawmakers do not read the laws. Well, this is blatant and obvious proof right here that they do not, at least in Ohio. And when it goes into effect, that'll be March 28th. And that's why we set up our event for March 28th at the State House at noon, to stand in direct defiance to...
So for those that don't know, the long title of this bill is of revised code to modify the law governing state preemption of local firearm regulations and related remedies, the grounds for self-defense and the burden of proof, the authority of a law enforcement officer or investigator to carry a weapon, the offense of unlawful transaction in weapons, or other weapons-related laws. Where again is shall not be infringed? And correct me if I'm wrong. Did the prime sponsors Johnson and La Tourette and every co-sponsor on this bill, every senator on here, not take an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States as well as the state constitution of Ohio?
We have proof that they took an oath to it because you can actually file on their oath downtown, like you can file on their bonds downtown. So we know that they took an oath. There's proof. It's public record. And I don't believe you have to pay anything for that. Now, I might be wrong. It may be a couple of dollars, but that oath is accessible to the public. That's in every state, every city. If somebody is a civil servant, somebody that has decided to uphold the civil standard in our community, these are firemen. That's why if you see a fireman and they have one button unbuttoned and they're in uniform, if you were to call their captain, their commander, they get into a lot of trouble for that, believe it or not.
Wow.
The police, people that work downtown at the courthouse, all of these people are civil servants and they all take an oath. And we can actually file on that oath, filing against them.
So a firefighter has one button undone and he's going to get a disciplinary action. All these representatives fail to read legislation and co-sponsor a bill that is a direct violation of infringing on the Constitution and the Second Amendment, and they get what? Reelected?
Vacation. Yeah.
Lobbyist money. I mean, again, so the question then becomes, if this bill does become law, this is the House bill, what happened, or has it gone to the Senate?
It's going to the Senate this week, I believe. Now, here's the thing. You were talking about La Tourette and the sponsors and all of those people. Well, they all, when you become elected, you get assigned to a committee. And the committee that the House Bill 228 was assigned to, this was supposed to be a stand your ground bill. And then there was a committee that gutted the stand your ground provision from it.
And looking at the long version, you can see that there are modifications after revision after revision on here, highlighted sections that have been crossed off. So again, you're right. This bill has been gutted more likely from its original intent.
Absolutely. It was supposed to be a stand your ground bill. They gutted stand your ground. And then the end of last week, the bill was referred to that exact same committee here in Columbus. The exact same committee that messed it up. The exact same committee that gutted stand your ground is where it's been sent again, almost to shove it in their face. Now, here's the thing. The people that everybody knows now, everybody's aware of what this has done in Ohio. It'll make a little over 1 million people felons overnight from March 27th to March 28th. The bill is passed. It's been signed. We don't have to wait on a signature. We're just waiting for it to go into effect because of our 90-day provision. So if they passed another law now, it wouldn't matter because we have a 90-day provision. There would be a certain period of time from March 27th or March 28th on until that next bill came into effect that people would be felons. So they knew to put in emergency language. Everybody knows what has happened. Everybody's aware of what's gone on.
So correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir.
Hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. The bill goes up to be voted again this second time with everyone aware of what's going on, and every single Democrat in Columbus voted no to authorize it with the emergency fix. Knowing that it would turn over 1 million people into felons overnight, they voted no. Everybody's aware. Everybody's plainly aware, and they voted no. So we have a lot to worry about in Columbus, Ohio. There's a chance that this is going to go into effect and turn a ton of people into felons overnight.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The House Bill 228 left and passed the House, went into the Senate, passed the Senate, and was signed into law by the governor of your state.
No. It was passed, and then the governor vetoed it, and then the Democrats and Republicans came together 2 days after Christmas to do a veto override, and they overrode it and approved it and didn't care about what was on it, didn't actually read it, and supposedly didn't know that a lobbyist organization put a provision in there in between the House and the Senate votes that took away damn near all of our gun rights here in Ohio.
I'm going to go into a word that is pretty extreme for some people, not for others. If you have evidence of a violation of their constitutional oath, and you have legislation that clearly and actions that have clearly defied the Second Amendment of the Constitution and in your state, then how is this not treason?
Well, let's go with the worst case scenario and say that it is, right? But let's just be honest. Let's just be realistic about it, okay? It's treason being committed by people in powerful positions that have people with guns to back them up, giving them that authority by force. That's the realistic situation that we're in. Be it that that's the case, and Ohio is staring down the barrel of this. I don't know if people really get the gravity of what's gone on here in Ohio. I have friends and I have people that I've known for years that are putting together letters to leave for the people they love before they go to the event on March 28th. Like, if something happens to me.
So what you're saying is that this is going to put two sides directly in conflict, except it's 1 million people to how many? So, like, let's say if they're going to make 1 million gun owners felons overnight, and I think I've heard you say that there is no turn in your gun program, there is no leniency, there is no amnesty, that this is a hard line. If you have these weapons past this date and you are caught, you will be a felon.
Correct. That there's nothing, and that does legitimize their position to say that this could have been a mistake, because you've seen with the red flag laws, like New Jersey, people were supposed to turn in their bump stocks, nobody did. So now you got all these, felons in Jersey. But here's the thing, there was no provision in Jersey for the cops. So now all of the cops who own bump stocks are also felons, so just like on March 28th.
In this bill, it actually discusses that law enforcement would be exempt. And so that way they can carry long rifles. That was a provision
they entered.
That way they can carry long rifles, they can have the assault rifles, they can be righted up with up armor. I mean, you're talking, they have no limit in Ohio for what law enforcement can carry, but the people don't have that same firepower. They don't have that same ability. My question is how did the employees of the state get away with this? And if the governor vetoed it and they overrid the veto, can it be challenged in the state Supreme Court? That was one question that came up last night in my group discussing this, is that can't this law be challenged and declared unconstitutional in your state Supreme Court?
I am not going to pretend to be able to say that I know law that well. As far as I know, yes. This can be brought about in a number of different manners, I believe, legally through the courts. Here's the problem with that. We see this in every state, we see it everywhere, and it's not just gun laws and gun rights. We've seen violations of privacy, we've seen violations of freedom of speech. We've seen many constitutional violations continuously. And because they have the authority and they're using our wealth to fund people with firearms to enforce their authority, that's the reason for the Concords. It's bigger than Ohio. Maybe March 28th comes and we fall. Maybe the nation watches us fall. The nation will go from there in whatever direction it does. But the Concords, I believe, because it's completely decentralized, it gives us a chance to say, look, what they're doing in Columbus is criminal, just like what they're doing in North Carolina and New Jersey and all these other states. What can we do? Is there something that we can do? Is there enough of us? How many of us are there? You know, how many of us are like-minded? Do we even know? You know, will it affect us differently if we find out that there's a ton of us? Um, you know, will we start to believe in something at that point? But look, I mean, if there is that many of us, and really when it comes down to it, we just want to be free. You know, we're held to a standard of reasonability. We want to be able to hold those people in those positions to that exact same standard. We don't think that that's unreasonable. You know, we think it's appropriate. We think it's responsible. We think that it's fair, and that's what we want. You know, we're not asking for anything that's not unreasonable. And so, because that's the case, why not? Why not see how many of us there are? Why not investigate that? And then, if there is enough of us, why not find a way to come together, you know, and make sure that all of us have a way to be represented, all of us have a way to have some kind of a say in what it is that not every American is going to do, because we can't be responsible for every American, but what all of the patriots are going to do. The people who claim and profess to be the stewards of this nation and its people. You know, what are we going to do? We can't be responsible for everybody else. And we're going to have naysayers, and there's going to be all kinds of people saying all kinds of things. That's fine. That's good, because that means this is still America, that people are still free enough to say those things, that we're not a bunch of socialist robots, thank God.
So one of the things that I enjoyed about your idea is that it doesn't just sound like everybody meet up in DC and let's have a little concert / rally. Your idea actually has substance, that has a concept from beginning to end on. It has a schedule of sorts, as well as a plan of action. And that's why, again, I think that this idea of a concord, an agreement, a treaty between patriots and a coming together of redressive grievances. When you had your redressive grievance at the Ohio State Capitol rally, and it started off as redressive grievances. Essentially, what you're asking for, and correct me again if I'm wrong, is that militia of each state be represented with a full list and redressive grievances, not only from their state and local levels, but their national levels, but also to have solutions for those. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not just a 1 day, 2 day event. This is a full plan event where everything is live streamed. People are aware of what's going on. I'm sure legislators will know what's going on. And it's not about one group, it's about individual accountability. And that's everything that I'm reading here up from the beginning to the end is these concords are made only of self-determination. Involvement in these concords are only to be under self-determination. However, at any time any person decides to disinclude themselves, they will be made free to do so without question. So you're now bringing it to, yes, how many people will come together, but nobody's forced to join. Nobody has to participate in anything they don't want to. But again, it'd be nice to know, for example, here in South Dakota, how many people see the same grievances, have the same ideas for solutions, and to come together. Now, how do we put that on a scale of all 50 states? And how do we bring all that together? And you had made mention that maybe we do this in the center of the country. You know, you've made mention of how it would be organized. So if you could, again, correct me where I'm wrong, but kind of speak to the organization level. Let's play it out to fruition. Let's say you get a response back from all states. How many days is this planned out for? I know you've said that we have like a year to meet up. You know, so kind of speak to the process of getting to the event, and then when and if the event occurs, what the goal is.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and that's all pretty accurate for the most part. It's not just militias, it's patriot groups, it's individuals, it's whoever you are, if you're like-minded. So starting on the state level, what what the Concords are asking, and I'm surprised, honestly, at the. I've actually gotten a lot of positive responses, man. And again, let me take us back for just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just an idea. That's all that it is. If you have a better one, please present it. We need it. If you can make this idea better, then please do so. Listen, we're just trying. That's all that this is. It's an attempt. And if you believe in it, if you think it's a good idea, then you use it. It's not Jeremy's Patriot Concords. It's the Patriot Concords. It's for everyone. It's everybody's Concords, anyone that believes in it. And I think those things need to be established, that this isn't a perfect idea, and it's probably not going to be a perfect idea. And it doesn't need to be a perfect idea. It needs to be a functional idea. This is essentially is, how many of us are there really? And can we come together? And if we can come together, then what can we accomplish? What can we achieve with our unity? That's it. That's it. I think everybody's looking for those things. I was trying to find the answers to those things, and this is what I came up with. And like I said, it's not great, it's not perfect, it's not gonna be, but hopefully it's functional enough. Lisa sat with me for hours last night, and we went over this, and we went through this, and other people are going over it. And like I said, I'm surprised I've gotten the positive responses that I have, mostly because this asks people to do a lot of work, So let's start at the state level. Let's start at the beginning, right? Let's say that the patriot groups and the militias and the oath keepers and all these different organizations around the nation that are patriotic say, you know what, that's something I could be part of. Okay, that's fine. So they decide to put their name on the Concord for their group, whatever it is. They're going to print their name in capital bold print. If you look on your social security card, on your license, on your birth certificate, your name is done that way because that shows ownership. And what we are doing is if we're talking about reclaiming our nation, then we're reclaiming ourselves as well. We are the owners of ourselves. And because of that we want to go ahead and make that claim. Now, immediately people are going to say, I don't want my name on a list. Okay, we respect your decision. We appreciate somebody who has that type of countenance, but you're not ready for this. And that's okay. When you are, come back and we'll be here, and we'll be ready for you to join us. But if you're worried about your name on a list, you're definitely not ready to get your country back. And I don't think you understand what you've lost and what it is you stand to lose. So that would be my answer to those folks. Yes, sir. Because that's going to come up immediately. Yeah. So let's say the Oath Keepers in South Dakota have their leader. Every group has their leader. And the leader says, hey, everybody check this out. If this is something you want to do, let me know. Maybe we'll put a vote to it. And then they vote that they want to do it. So the people who want to put their name on the Concord, and that Oath Keeper says, I've got 300 people, right? So they have their list. He's got it. It's 300. Then there's South Dakota Militia, Lightfoot Militia. And they've got, their leader, and they vote on it, and they put their names on it, and they've got 400, Now we've got these different groups, right? And what they can do on their page is post their number. They don't have to post any names. They just post the number. And they say, okay, I've got 400 here. And then they're aware. In most states, the groups are aware of each other. So this is a way, it almost forces these groups to be in communication with each other at least once a month to update their lists. That way they can come up with a state number, right? So I'm the Oath Keeper leader in South Dakota. I'm going to call the militia, the Lightfoot, the Minutemen. I'm going to call this Patriot organization. I'm going to call, this VFW that said they were on board. And I'm going to get everybody's number that I know of. And I'm going to post our group number and then the state total number. And all groups are going to be able to do that. It's completely decentralized, and it's your responsibility if you want your nation back. It gives everybody a job. Now you can assign somebody to do this, or maybe a couple of people to do this for each group, right? So each group has reported their group number and their state total. They're staying in contact with each other. That way everybody has the same cohesive total. And because the other states are doing that, and everybody is so curious, I believe, to know how many of us there are, they're going to start going around to everybody else's pages. And they're going to see what South Dakota is. They're going to see what North Dakota is. They're going to see what Iowa is. And they're going to start to get a national total themselves. And then everybody's going to be able to start to have that conversation. And they're going to say, do you see how many of us there are? And it's only been a week, or it's only been a month, or whatever it's been. Do you see how many like-minded people? And then they start going home and going to bed at night with that total in their head. And they're thinking about it. Man, what could that many people do? And we start to realize our strength. And then we start to see these lists of all these groups in all these states. And these are people that we can contact. These are people that we can get a hold of. There's no sense in us hiding. There's satellite technology that can count the follicles on your beard. So there's no sense in hiding. We might as well be loud and proud.
Touche. And, you know, this is something that has been discussed in my group before. When you're talking about the fact that the government can watch everything up to including this video, or when this video is off, whatever technology you want to say the government has, it's almost like the government, again, when I say the government, I mean elected officials that are willing to push through legislation like this, and in any state that are willing to violate their oaths to the Constitution. Essentially, it is drawing a line in the sand, and that's why I said when you start with the redress of grievances, I like the fact that of this, first it makes the states come together before there's any national unity. And it makes you find, and it makes local, all the way down to VFWs, come together to discuss the problems. But then also, again, in your synopsis here of the Concords, it says to come with ideas to solve. And now, so let's say we have, you know, in South Dakota we have a little under 1 million people. We'll say 1 million, just being liberal with it. Let's say we have 3% of that. We have 300,000 people that are, you know, or that's actually 30%. Let's say we have 3,000 people that are willing to put their names out there to say, hey, I'm participating in this. I believe in a state like South Dakota, you're going to find that there's more than 3,000 people that declare themselves a constitutionalist, that want their rights protected, that see problems. And again, that's being liberal again with the numbers. But again, I like the fact that you're not putting anybody over anybody else, that leaders are expected to be leaders, and groups are expected to be as groups and functional as groups, and then to come together on that state level. And then when we have that cohesiveness and groups start posting, we have 10,000, we've got 30,000. A state like California, we've got 50,000. You know, and you start then to put that idea into motion, which again, I'm talking about action. And this is why I agree with your concept in theory, because if you get that ball rolling and it starts to get into motion, then it gets to an event. And that event is a multi-day event that has different benchmarks in order to not only redress the grievances, but solve and come to a concord, an agreement, a treaty, and to move forward. So when you get to, let's say we've got all the groups, they're posting numbers. When it comes down to it, again, I'm sure that there'll be representatives from each state, groups that travel. You said everything will be live broadcasted, so you're essentially throwing it right in the face of those that are committing these crimes and violations of the Constitution. At that point, where do you see it going? Because, I mean, some people would say, well, this is what we can do for an Article 5. Why don't you do an Article 5 convention? Why don't you do this, that, or the other? Why this method, and why using militias and patriot groups?
Love these questions, dude. Absolutely love them. So, from a marketing perspective, first of all, we have every right to stand on the backbone of our patriot communities. whether you're a militia, whether you're Ohioans for concealed carry, whether you're Ohio gun owners, you have, it's like holding a preacher accountable to his religion, right? You've signed yourself up for this position already. You've said this is who you are.
Sure.
So we want to be able to gather, think about a wise marketing strategy, right? So you're in your state and you have, now it looks like a friendly competition too between the different patriot groups and militias to see who can get the most. And it's a friendly competition between the states to see who has the most patriots, right? You turn this into a trendy thing. But on top of that, you go first to the patriots and then you get your numbers up, right? So after you've hit all the militias and the oath keepers and the patriots and all of this, you have a number of 30,000 or whatever. Then you start to go to the VFWs and to all these, you know, the AMBETs and all these other places, and the places that you know of, retirement homes as well. You start to hit up all these different groups where you get the individuals. The reason for that is because we need to be able to stand on the patriots and get those numbers, because people want to join something that's already been established. People are more comfortable joining something that already looks like it has wheels underneath it. And so we use the patriots for that. That's their purpose. That's their reason, you know? So we use them as the standard, you know, and say, this is how many people we have already for our state. Would you like to join? You know, now we've got this impressive number. Now, getting to the summit, so the states have reported their numbers, and we've gotten a national number, and we see that it exceeds it meets or exceeds the national total of 3%, or it's just a number that we're happy with, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we don't have to wait a year. That's an arbitrary time period. Again, this idea is subjective. We decide to have a summit where we have to have it organized, right? We can do this one of two ways. We can have, you know, all these millions of people join up and just have a huge, like, Patriot Woodstock mess. Or we can go ahead and make it to where now you have some cohesiveness in the states, right?
Yes.
Now you have people that have the leadership positions. They're well known. And as soon as we know that we're going to have a national summit, each state needs to start nominating and working on voting for electing their state representative that's going to be sent to the summit. If people don't like that idea, then I ask again, how is it exactly you think you're going to get a nation back if you don't believe in your ability to organize a state? The function of that state rep isn't to decide for everybody. The function of the state rep is to go there with that state's the concise list of grievances and the concise list of remedies, and then speak on the behalf of those things. And then take, when we're at the summit, the very first day, because everyone's, the nice thing about this is before the summit ever happens, the entire nation is going to have the exact same copy of the national list of grievances and remedies. Everyone's going to have it. So everyone's already going to be talking about it. It's already hopefully going to be heavily discussed leading into the summit. And it's the talking point for all of the people that are nominated to be the state reps. That's going to be the talking point, obviously. So each state rep would do well to send their most persuasive speaker, right? We're going to see every state's list of grievances and remedies. We're going to see who the really good writers are. Yep. You know, we're going to see who the talented writers are. And when you send your state rep, you're going to want to send the most persuasive speaker you have, because they're speaking on behalf of your state's grievances and remedies.
One thing that, if I may, one thing that was pointed out in my little group was that this is going to be an incredible not only line in the sand, but obviously getting mainstream traction for this will be difficult, which puts a lot of responsibility on independent journalism, and to have that accountability on individual journalism, and to have that birth again of the freedom of the press, not the bought and paid for media. So do you see if mainstream media got a hold of something like this, and let's say you do achieve the threshold of 3%, which is roughly 9 to 11 million people in this country, which again you'd have representation sent to the summit, and again I'm assuming that people can attend if they'd like, and bolster numbers at the event. But when it comes to the battle between mainstream media, which is again bought and paid for, in my opinion, controlled state and federal propaganda, how do you combat a government which again will view this as a declaration of war, essentially against their form of government at that point? I mean, you're not trying to implement a new form of government, you're trying to come to an agreement. But again, how do you combat a mainstream media that is going to look at this as a clear line in the sand between government and the people, which again is revolution?
Yeah, no, and it's important that we address that. It is. We have to be realistic about all of this and really speak to the honest effect of it. So the summit is happening on a live stream, and we will have alternative media with us. Alternative media, our people, the people that aren't on, Fox and MSNBC and stuff like that. We're going to promote the little guys, the people that are like us, and they'll be there with the exclusive coverage. Mainstream media is not welcome. They are not allowed in. The location will be private property for that reason. Yep. Or it'll be a rented space that only allows our people, because legally they're not allowed in there either. We don't have to obey any sunshine laws, first of all, but we're doing it on a live stream, so they can simulcast our live stream. They'd be more than welcome to do that.
That would be an incredible slap in the face.
What's that?
That would be an incredible slap in the mainstream media face if they had to simulcast the broadcast from a summit.
We don't need them. We do not need them. We do need actual media, but in our lifetimes, we've never actually seen it. So we'll demand it from our alternative media, and we'll get it from them. The mainstream state-run media, we do not need them. We've never needed them. We're never going to. And they can simulcast our live stream. That's fine. Like I said, and then if we choose to do press conferences with them, we can do that. But I don't know that we will. Yeah, they'll get it all secondhand though too. They won't get But let me address the fact that it's taking a stand against the government as well.
Yes.
Let's not suffer any delusions here. This is, first of all, not easy. This will be work. Not that it can't be done. It has everything to do with our willingness. If our willingness is there, this is done. Mission accomplished. We'll at least know the number. Maybe we'll never have a summit, but we'll at least know the number. But we go to the summit, I say, and again, I'm open to whatever, but I say we do it one of two ways. Either every bit of this nation's militia members that wish to volunteer to stand outside of whatever facility it is that we're in to protect it, we can do that. Or we can go with a very light security team and allow them to arrest us on live stream.
Now, you're at the, yeah, right. This is where you're basically at in here. So with 1 year to orchestrate location and resources, all members of the Concords meet for National Summit. This summit will take place to establish our intentions, reasons, and methods instituted to correct and restore our lands to constitutionality. This will be done through militia leadership. Each militia leader will be responsible for the grievances. We've covered all this. One of the things that I want to get to, though, in this is that all grievances will be listed together. Then the vote will take place. All members' votes count as one and will be determined what steps our nation's patriots will take next towards a constitutional sovereign state able to pursue our happiness. This would be the time to create a new Declaration of Independence or political party. This is not to change the Constitution. This is our means to get back in the hands of the common man or woman. So what you're saying is that, and this is why I said when I was reading through it and listening to you, the last time this was done was 1776. You're not saying this is to change the Constitution. This is essentially a modern day Declaration of Independence from what is currently standing.
Well, what I was saying is in that IE is at that moment, that'll be it could be on one end of the spectrum to the other was what I was trying to illustrate anyway, and I obviously failed. We can go, as far as, but this is the moment to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to do something as far this direction as declaring our independence? Or are we going to go, in this direction and create another political party? Trying to illustrate that we could do one of those two things or anything in between. Do we decide to do a convention of states? Do we decide to do, just whatever it is, that's when we decide that.
And that's why I like your idea, because it paints a beautiful picture. It redresses all questions that could be leading up to. It doesn't put one group more superior than another. It allows each group to be their own centralized focal point in their state and local levels. And then it simply brings us together in a harmonious way for a concord, which again is why I really do appreciate the work and the thought and the idea, and why I'm so honored to have you on, because a lot of people talk about what we could do. A lot of people, have concepts and idea, but nobody's painted it out this well and articulated it in the manner you have here, and stood up to scrutiny and questions. The last question I have before I let you just take it in conclusion is that I want to make sure that, at least for the people that are concerned about this, you do mention whether or not we want to become a sovereign state. You do say that anybody can participate. Just make it at least clear to my understandings that this is not declaring yourself a sovereign citizen, which again is a redundant word, but you're not renouncing. Are you renouncing your citizenship by attending? And again, I guess the concern would be that, obviously by renouncing your citizenship, there are issues that go along with that in government, local, state. This isn't that type of event, or is it? I mean, again, that's kind of the concern, is that if you go to this event, are you now to be considered a sovereign citizen? You're going to be on the list of the government. I mean, again, don't get me wrong. It sounds patriotic. I'm all in for the idea and the concept. I want to see it come to fruition, but I want people to be aware of what the consequences may be in the worst case of scenarios. And then again, speak to that, and then draw your conclusion, and we'll go from there.
Excellent, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, this that was to mirror like you said, the last time anything like this has been done was 1776, and that was to mirror the founders' language, because they talked about our sovereignty a lot. I don't, it doesn't make you a sovereign citizen, which, like you said, again, is an oxymoron. To be sovereign is to be basically the lord of your own manor. You are your own boss. To be a citizen is to be a subject, which means you are subjected to the authority of another that stands over you. So you can be one of those things, but you can't be both of those things. And this doesn't have anything to do with that. This is just, again, it's very simple. It's for the patriots to be able to come together and say, look, how many of us are there, and what can we do, if anything, and what are we going to try to do? Or do we decide to do something, or do we abstain? Is it the wise choice for us to just basically submit, to what's going on for whatever reason? Or do we believe that dying on our feet is better than living on our knees, you know? And what do we think about the future generations? You know, what do we want them to inherit? Even if we fall, even if we do not achieve our task, do we leave a legacy that says we were compliant and complacent, or that we fought like hell, period? Because we're Americans, and we're not meant to be slaves. That what has happened here, whether people are aware of the Admiralty Maritime Law position that a lot of people have found us in, or if you just looked around and realized that things aren't right, this isn't what this country's supposed to be, and we know it. Now, I may have that low level of American education, but I can look around and know that I'm not free. You know, I can look around and know, like you said, that if I got to buy my permit or permission for everything, if I got to have a license for everything, if I got to ask government permission for every damn thing I do, I'm not free. We're one of the most regulated nations in the world, and that's saying something because we're in competition with freaking Europe and Russia. You know what I'm saying? That's, come on now. That's not who we're supposed to be. That's not what we're supposed to be. Hence, we have, enemies at the gate are easy to defeat. Enemies on the inside will destroy a nation, will rip us apart, will absolutely decimate us. And I could sit here for another 5 hours laundry listing how all of the examples that we have, whether it was state by state or federally, of how we've been betrayed.
Amen.
You know, period, end of story. And then that leads to dissolving a culture. You know, I don't know if people understand, but creating a culture takes thousands of years. It is not easy. You know, and American culture is unique in the world because we come from everywhere. We have Irish culture, German culture. We have things that come from the Anglican church, the Protestant church, the Quakers. We have, you know, we have this unique culture, you know, but it was all definitely surrounded by, if you're going to be here, be American. And now we have sitting senators that say that the United States flag is nothing more than a rag to them, that it means nothing to them. You know, that's one of many examples that illustrates that we have enemies sitting here in powerful positions, people that have been willing to betray us for corporate gain and not blink an eye at how many people they affect. They don't give a shit about any of us. They don't care about our kids. They don't give a damn about anybody we love. And guess what? Nobody is coming to save us. Nobody is going to be our knight in shining armor. Either the American people who are exhausted, who are broke, who are unhealthy, they're the ones that are going to have to stand up and do this. The Americans that are so disunified, the Americans that are just cynical, that have no real level of education, all these things that we hear about ourselves. It's time for us to stand up and see if we can prove these people wrong. Now, I'm not saying I have the perfect idea. I probably don't. But I modeled as much as I could after some just incredible human beings. Because you're right, the last time it happened was 1776. And listen, I don't have a right, and I am in no position to present something like that. Let's make no mistake here. I am not one of the founding fathers. I can never be compared to any of those people ever, period. All right? And I'll never do enough to ever be able to deserve that position. The Patriot Concords are for the people of this nation. They belong to you. And if it's a garbage idea, then throw it in the garbage. You know, if it's a good idea, then use it, but it's yours.
Amen.
You know, none of us are ever going to be.
I do want to tell you this before we do hop off here, just for the record. To the British, our founding fathers were all convicted felons. They wanted to take all the rights, tax them beyond belief. And do you believe that in our modern time, that by doing something like this, we are actually honoring our founding fathers by addressing, redressing, and uniting as intended to form a more perfect union?
Do you think we're honoring our founding fathers?
Well, in a sense, yeah. One question. How old are you, if you don't mind?
That's my father-in-law asking you how old you are.
I'm 33, sir.
33.
You might be old enough. Did you pledge allegiance to the United States in school?
Did you pledge allegiance to the United States in school?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Now, I heard you mention a few minutes ago that you said, should you end your allegiance? My thought on that is that the country that we pledged our allegiance to no longer exists. Since that's true, you no longer hold allegiance to anyone.
Yeah.
When they took God out of the pledge to allegiance, they ended the government that we pledged our allegiance to. And so we no longer hold allegiance to this government.
Yeah.
It is not the one we pledged our allegiance to.
Yeah.
Because people have told me that before. They said, well, you turned on your country? I said, no, my country turned on me.
Yeah, and I think
That's
a lot
a
of
very
veterans
valid
feel that
point,
way,
sir.
too. And I think that's also part and parcel a reason for the Concords is because this government doesn't represent us. It isn't it isn't us. It isn't who we are. And
It certainly isn't we the people.
exactly, so they obviously don't have any allegiance to us or to the Constitution.
Exactly.
So as far as any allegiance to them
So
goes,
who
he's
broke
absolutely
that? Did
right.
the people that violated the Constitution, or did the people that allowed it to happen? Either way, there is a broken allegiance there. There is a misdelegation of power and authority placed in a government that puts corporate and state privileges and interests over people's rights and interests. And in my opinion, your concept, your idea, where you may trash your idea and say throw it in the trash if it's a bad one, with all due respect, sir, that's why I'm talking to you today, because I believe that you have framed at least the conversation in the right direction. And, we may not all have the answers. I may have a different redress of grievance here in South Dakota than you do in Ohio. But one thing we can agree upon is that this government does not represent my interest, your interest, my children's interest. And for that, that's why I am willing to not only help to see this truth through to fruition, but to dedicate myself to this cause and to help promote it, which is why I wanted to ask you these tough questions. And I want to thank you for coming on today and discussing this. I'm sure there will be many, many questions going on, and I would hope that anybody that would have those questions reach out to Jeremy. And I know that Mr. Ace Baker of American Warrior Revolution has allowed you to speak on his platform and to utilize that. I know that there's going to be other groups that are going to want to reach out to you. So as respectful as you've been to me, sir, I want to say thank you for coming on. I want to say thank you for what you're trying to put into words, into concept, into movement, into action. And it is patriotic to discuss your problems that you're having with your country. I believe we're honoring our founding fathers in the birth of a nation that is constitutionally principled and sounded. So, again, can you just, before you go, let people know how to find you other than being tagged in the video, and then again, I'll let you have the last word, and we'll go from there, sir.
Well, thank you again, man. Thank you. That very kind words, and it's my honor and privilege to be here, man. I appreciate the fantastic questions. I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And I appreciate your support. I think as this, goes around and does the rounds, we'll get a general consensus of what everyone thinks. And I'm asking people to do two things. I'm asking them to do a lot of work and possibly put themselves in harm's way. So you would think this idea would not gain a lot of traction. But to the contrary, it has, and it's or at least started to. And so maybe it is something. Maybe it'll be what, helps to create the idea. You know what I mean? It gets us where we need to be. But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the time and the opportunity, and hopefully we can do this again.
I would be more than honored to have you on again in the future, sir. You have yourself a good day, and I, again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
You as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, guys. Jeremy R Deeter, Ohio. Please check him out. He's tagged in this video. It's been my honor and privilege. Again, my name is CJ Abernathey. If you found this video to be educational, informative, at least thought-provoking, please share it out. Please let somebody know they might have something to add to this, that question or two I missed, or comments or concerns. I kind of put this together short notice. So again, I want to thank Jeremy. and his father, and all the people that have tuned in to support this. You guys have a good day, and I will we'll see where this goes. God bless America.